piece of history that had to be, and unfortunately, it wasn't always pleasant.
Of course, there was the one guy that got his car blown up.
I saw a big explosion in front of Tony Roma's restaurant.
All the 911 lights lit up and said, something's wrong at Tony Roma's.
Well, I, of course, turned my car around, pulled into the parking lot, realized it was Frank Rosenthal when I saw him.
Here's Frank Rosenthal wandering around.
And Frank Rosenthal standing over there bleeding, and I said, oh my God, what happened?
This car is blown up. The trunk lid up to this Cadillac was up on the top of the German restaurant sign. That's how much force it had. Knocked out all the windows.
His hair was standing straight up.
Mr. Rosenthal had just had his hair transplanted. I remember distinctly him being the most angry about the fact that it had burned off most of his transplant.
And he was saying, they're trying to kill me, they're trying to kill me. And I was saying, who? And at that point, he shut up.
You will see no pictures of Frank Rosenthal as he looks today in this story. No cameras were allowed during the interview, and reporters had to agree not to discuss his appearance. But in Rosenthal's own words, he is a shaken man. Who did it? Who planted the bomb that ripped his Cadillac to shreds? Rosenthal has no answer to that question, or if he does, he's not saying. One possibility, the one advanced by Metro and the FBI, is that it was a mob hit, a contract put out by the Chicago family, and one that could involve his one-time friend, Tony Spilatro. Said Rosenthal, I don't even want to entertain that thought. It would make me very unhappy, very angry. It would be an unhealthy situation for all of us. All I know, he said later, is that it didn't come from the Boy Scouts of America. Why would Spilatro want him dead? Rosenthal replied, only he could say if he had anything to gain by killing me. But the FBI may have thought of a motive. Secret wiretaps revealed that the mob thought Rosenthal's publicized fight for his gaming license was an embarrassment to them. They called him crazy and uncontrollable. Another possibility was mentioned by the lawmen to Rosenthal. They asked about his ex-wife, whose reported relationship with Tony Spilatro contributed to the split between the two men. Rosenthal discounts that possibility, but of his relations with Spilatro, he said, I don't consider him a friend of mine. The question on his mind now is how to protect himself and his family. Rosenthal said both Metro and the FBI offered him protection in return for information about local mob operations. Said Rosenthal, I told them I was not interested, that I had nothing to offer. The oddsmaker said he pointed no fingers and made no lists of suspects, even though the cops told him the hitman or men would almost certainly try again. Instead, he will rely on his own resources for protection. Will he change his lifestyle? Yes. Will he hire bodyguards? No comment. Will he rely on methods that may be outside of the law? I will do whatever I have to protect myself and the kids. One question was not asked, but it could prove to be the most telling. Why did Rosenthal open up to reporters? Why this impromptu news conference from a man not known for his accessibility in recent years? Maybe he just wanted to enlighten the public, or perhaps he was trying to send a message to someone, to those responsible for the bomb, a message that says, even after all of this, I'm not talking. George Knapp for News Center 8.
There was something, of course, you couldn't remember. It was as traumatic a thing that happened to you in your whole career. You came out of a restaurant, Tony Roma's, I believe, got into your Cadillac and turned on the ignition, and there was a bomb in there. Tell me a little about that incident.
Well, I'm not sure if I ever turned the ignition on. The second part of your question is accurate. There was a bomb in the car, obviously. I don't recall the initial explosion. I never heard anything. What I did see was fire shooting up from the floor onto the windshield. At the time, I was probably semi-conscious. My recollection was that my car was on fire, and flames were shooting up from the left and the right and in front of me. And I attempted to open the door with my left hand. And as I did, the fires were too intense, the heat was so intense that I had to pull my left hand back. I then made one gesture with my right arm towards the lever of the door side, the driver's side, and fortunately pushed it through my shoulder against the door, and for some reason it popped open, and I was able to tumble out of the car onto the street afire.
How badly burned were you?
I don't know what the degree of the burns were. I had broken ribs. I was burned, both arms, both legs, my forehead, but the recovery was fairly quick.
Any idea who That case was never cleared, or as the authorities say, solved as to who was responsible for planting that bomb there or who actually wanted it done. Do you have any ideas on that?
I've been asked that question from probably the day of the bombing. Well, not probably. In fact, I was. In fact, that evening in the emergency room, I was invaded by the FBI, Clark County Intelligence, and many agencies thereafter, and asked the same question that you've asked me. And I've had many years to try to analyze. As you said, the bombing remains unsolved. And I really couldn't say with any accuracy who placed the bomb there, who is the one that persuaded someone to place the bomb. It would be pure speculation, and I wish I knew.
Were you thinking of revenge at one time?
I never thought of revenge because that really wouldn't be the answer. First of all, revenge on who? I wouldn't know who and where to go, for revenge.
The authorities wanted you to go in what was sometimes been described as the witness protection program, or wanted you to become an informant after that?
I was invited into that program less than 24 hours after the bombing. Carte blanche, the Riviera, you name it. Your own home, estate, horses, wineries. And I chose to remain as is, status quo, and took my chances.